Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Russ Linstad, a graduate of 1991 out of Chelmsford. And I'm the resident agent in charge with Homeland Security Investigations out of Messina, New York. If you're not familiar with Messina, New York, you're fortunate. It's in the middle of nowhere. You routinely, your nostril hairs freeze up there because it's that cold. But it's right on the Canadian border. I oversee and supervise an office out of Messina, New York, and I also oversee and supervise the Border Enforcement Security Task Force. It's a combination of federal, state, local, and tribal police departments working together to combat cross-border crime. Our agency, just to let you know a little bit about HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, we are second in size to criminal investigations with FBI. We have 10,000 employees, 7,000 which are criminal investigators. The other 3,000 are our mission support specialists and our intel research specialists. We have over 250 offices domestically within the United States, and we have over 50 internationally. HSI investigates any kind of illegal contraband coming into or out of the country, whether it's narcotics, whether it's currency, whether it's people. We also handle child exploitation investigations. So we have a wide array of investigations that we work. Kind of my career path, and I think I want to kind of the same thing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Graduated from Chelmsford. I ended up having a neighbor that went to Massachusetts Maritime Academy, and he had told me, hey, the Merchant Marines, it's awesome. It's great, right? So I'm like, all right, sounds good. So I ended up getting accepted to Massachusetts Maritime Academy. I spent 2 years there, and I realized I did not want to ship out for 6 months out of a year. So I ended up transferring. And just to go back a little bit, my dad was a police officer here in Chelmsford, and my uncle was also a police officer. So in the back of my mind, I always thought maybe law enforcement was a career path that I might choose. After finishing up at Massachusetts Maritime Academy, I did attend University of Massachusetts Amherst. People had come to me and said, hey, listen, instead of taking a criminal justice degree, I know you're interested in law enforcement, you don't necessarily need criminal justice to get a job in law enforcement, so have something to fall back on. So I ended up taking sport management, and that's what I studied at the University of Massachusetts. During my senior year, I had a friend that was attending college in Elon, North Carolina. I was at Elon College. And he had called me up and said, hey, Russ, I think you're interested in law enforcement. I have a friend who's in the reserve unit that's a police officer in Greensboro, North Carolina. At the time, the Chelmsford Police Department weren't hiring at the time. That was where I was looking at initially. And so I said, well, hey, listen, I got to go get some experience. And so I packed up and I went down to North Carolina. I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't know anything about North Carolina. But I shot down there. As a matter of fact, Heather, my sister, brought me down there for the testing process. We made a road trip of it. And I ended up getting hired in 1996 with the Greensboro Police Department. Worked 9.5 years in Greensboro, got a lot of experience not only on the street, but during investigations and street narcotics investigations. And I was working at the time with a task force with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And they had said, hey, listen, why don't you join the feds? And I said, I'm not joining the feds. We do all the work. You guys just take all the credit. And I did end up applying for the federal government. I ended up doing the shotgun approach. I applied for FBI, ATF, DEA, all the agencies, and Homeland Security was the first one to call. I got stationed up in Messina, New York, and again, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's a great community, and we do have a lot of issues, but I think the biggest thing out of this, and I agree with you, if you don't know what you're going to do, just don't worry about it. Try to find your niche of what you're going to do. But the most important, regardless of what you're going to do and what job is, be passionate about what you do. I go to work every day, and I love what I do. I never wake up, and I'm never upset of going to work. I go there, I'm excited, I'm happy. And to be honest with you, we have a mandatory retirement at 57. They're going to have to push me out at 57 because I love my job so much. I'm very passionate about it. Like I was saying, we do child exploitation investigations. And that's something near and dear. People that are trying to target and exploit our children, just not going to tolerate it. And we recently had a sentence a couple of weeks ago. We ended up getting a guy 95 years in prison. So it's one of those jobs, you've got to be passionate with what you do. And if you do, it's not like going to work. It's something that you enjoy. So I challenge you to get out there and find something that you love to do every day. And that's what I have, and I'm very fortunate. I will say, Chelmsford prepared me for this and for this. So I appreciate being here. I just recently had a job shadow the other day. He came and he worked with me for the last 6 weeks at my office, and he wanted to be a lawyer. And I said, oh, that's great. That's awesome. You can kind of see, how we operate in law enforcement. And at the end of the 6 weeks, he was like, hey, listen, I think I want to switch what I'm doing. So please keep your mind open and look for different ideas out there, what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's an honor experience. It's great to be back. And this is kind of like a heat wave coming from the scene and down here. It's and one other thing, being up in New York, I always bring up the Red Sox, the Bruins, and it's hostile territory. I mean, people yelling at me. It's awful. So this is comfortable that I can come here today with fellow Bruins, Red Sox, and Patriots fans. So thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great night. Thank you.